Fired for kindness. What this town did next will leave you speechless. Welcome to our channel where every story touches the heart. If you enjoyed today's journey, we'd love to know. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see how our stories connect people from all around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss tomorrow's special story. We have something truly inspiring coming your way. Thank you for being part of this growing family. See you in the next tale. Hailey Bennett had always believed that small acts of kindness could ripple out and change the world. At just 26 years old, she worked as a hairstylist in a small American town where everyone seemed to know each other's names, stories, and struggles. Hailey loved her job, not for the paycheck, which was modest, but for the way it allowed her to connect with people and make them feel valued, even for just a moment. One bright summer morning, Hailey decided to treat herself to a coffee before opening the salon. She stopped by a small local stand and ordered her usual, a large 16-ounce black coffee. As she waited, she noticed a familiar face passing by. Mark Thompson, a 45-year-old veteran known around town for his quiet demeanor and the hardships he faced after returning from service. Mark looked tired. His clothes were worn, his hair messy, and his eyes, though kind, carried the weight of battles he no longer spoke about. Without thinking twice, Hailey called out to him, her voice warm and cheerful. "Hey, Mark, how are you doing today?" she asked, genuinely happy to see him. Mark offered a soft smile. "I'm doing all right, Hailey. It's good to see you too." Seeing the slight hesitation in his body language, Hailey smiled and said, "How about a cup of coffee on me? It's a beautiful morning. You deserve something good today." At first, Mark shook his head, embarrassed. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly. You've already been kind enough," he said. "Nonsense." Hailey laughed lightly. "Friends look out for each other. Besides, who could ever say no to good coffee?" With that, she turned back to the vendor and ordered another large coffee, this time for Mark. They stood side by side, cups in hand, sipping quietly for a few moments. For the first time in a long while, Mark looked genuinely at ease, even chuckling at a funny story Hailey shared about a client who had once asked for a rainbow mohawk haircut. As they finished their drinks, Hailey casually invited Mark to stop by the salon later in the day. "You know," she said, "if you're free, come by. Let me freshen up that haircut. No charge. It's on me." Mark's eyes widened in surprise. "Really, Hailey, you've already done enough. I don't want to be a burden," he said. "You're not a burden," Hailey replied firmly. "You're family to this town, and sometimes family needs a little help. I'll be waiting if you decide to stop by." Mark smiled, a little brighter this time, and thanked her again. As he walked away, Hailey felt a quiet warmth settle in her heart. She didn't know it yet, but that small act of kindness, a simple cup of coffee and a free haircut, was about to change not only Mark's day, but her own life forever. Later that afternoon, just as Hailey had promised, Mark walked through the glass doors of the salon. His hands were tucked nervously into the pockets of his worn jeans, and his boots, though dusty, were neatly tied. Hailey greeted him with a bright smile, waving him over to her chair. "Right on time," she said warmly. "Take a seat, Mark. Let's get you looking sharp." Hailey wrapped a fresh cape around him and got to work. As her scissors danced through his thick, unruly hair, the conversation flowed easily. Mark laughed more, the heavy weight he carried seeming a little lighter with every snip and clip. Hailey, with her natural charm and easygoing humor, made him feel, if only for a moment, like he belonged again. But just as Hailey was trimming the last of Mark's beard, the mood shifted. The salon door swung open with a sharp creak, and in marched Ms. Roberts, the salon owner. She was a woman in her mid-40s with a stiff walk, sharp eyes, and a reputation for valuing profits over people. Everyone in town knew it, and most feared her fiery temper. Ms. Roberts didn't say a word at first. She simply stood there, arms crossed, lips pursed tight, watching Hailey work on Mark. The tension in the room grew heavy, and even Mark shifted, uncomfortably in the chair. Hailey kept her focus, refusing to let Ms. Roberts' icy stare ruin the moment. When the haircut was done, Mark stood up, looking like a brand new man. His posture straightened, his face clean and confident. He turned to Hailey, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Hailey, really." But before he could leave, Ms. Roberts finally spoke, her voice slicing through the air. "That'll be $25, she said, cold as steel. Hailey quickly stepped forward. "It's okay, Ms. Roberts. I told him it was on me. You can take it out of my paycheck if you need to." Ms. Roberts narrowed her eyes, her voice rising sharply. "No, Hailey. I don't run a charity. I didn't build this business to give away free services to people who can't pay." Hailey's heart pounded, but she held her ground. "Mark didn't ask for anything. I offered because it's the right thing to do." "You're fired," Ms. Roberts snapped without hesitation. "Get your things and leave." Mark opened his mouth to protest, but Hailey gently shook her head, signaling him to stay quiet. "It's all right, Mark," she said softly. "Thank you for coming." With that, Mark walked out the door, his head low, the new pride he'd found moments ago already slipping away. Hailey stood there for a second, stunned, as silence swallowed the salon. The clinking of scissors, the soft chatter, everything had stopped. Deep inside, Hailey knew she hadn't just lost a job. She had stood up for something greater than herself. And outside, beyond the salon's glass walls, a ripple had already begun, one that would shake the entire town before the sun went down. As Mark stepped outside the salon, the afternoon sun felt heavier on his back. He walked slowly, shoulders slumped, the weight of guilt pressing harder with each step. Hailey had stood up for him, given him dignity when he had so little left, and now she had paid the price. He didn't get far before a familiar voice called out. "Mark, you're looking good, buddy," said Mrs. Henderson, the town baker, as she passed by. Mark forced a small smile, but it quickly faded. He hesitated, then turned to her. "Thanks, but it came at a cost," he said quietly. Curious, Mrs. Henderson pressed for more. Mark explained everything: the free haircut, Ms. Roberts' outburst, and Hailey's firing. Mrs. Henderson's cheerful face darkened with anger. "That's not right," she muttered, shaking her head. "Not after everything you've been through. And Hailey, she's one of the best people we've got in this town." Word spread fast, faster than wildfire, faster than anyone could have predicted. Within minutes, small knots of townspeople gathered outside shops, whispering in outrage. By the end of the hour, the entire town seemed to know what had happened. Inside that salon, at the local diner, the lunchtime crowd buzzed with conversation. "Did you hear what happened to Hailey? Fired for helping Mark. Can you believe that? Ms. Roberts should be ashamed of herself." Phones buzzed, Facebook groups lit up, and the news traveled like a summer storm rolling through the valley. It wasn't just sympathy for Hailey or anger. For Mark, it was something deeper. Hailey had always treated every customer like family, whether they were rich, struggling, old, or young. She had been the beating heart of the town's spirit. And now someone had tried to stomp that out. By the time the mayor's assistant got a phone call from 3 separate business owners demanding action, it was clear this wasn't just small town gossip. It was a full-blown community movement. Inside the town hall, Mayor Collins put down his coffee and listened carefully to the growing uproar. "She was fired for being kind," he repeated, barely able to believe it. "Yes, sir," said the assistant. "And the town's not taking it lightly. They're rallying behind her." The mayor tapped his desk thoughtfully. "In a town built on neighborly support and shared struggles, an injustice like this struck deep." "Get the car ready," Mayor Collins said. "We're paying Ms. Roberts a visit." Meanwhile, back at the salon, Hailey quietly swept up hair clippings, the metallic ring of the broom against the floor echoing in the empty space. She hadn't expected anyone to stand up for her. She thought she'd walk out those doors and be forgotten. But outside, the tide was already turning. And in just a few minutes, the front door would open again. This time not with anger or dismissal, but with the full force of a town ready to stand up for what was right. Just as Hailey gathered the last of her things, ready to leave the salon behind, The front door swung open again. But this time, it wasn't a customer or Ms. Roberts standing there. It was Mayor Collins. Behind him, a growing crowd of townspeople spilled across the sidewalk, their faces serious, their arms crossed in silent support. Hailey froze, the broom still in her hand. She blinked, unsure if she was imagining the scene unfolding before her. Ms. Roberts, sensing trouble, rushed forward with a forced smile stretched tight across her face. "Mr. Mayor," she said, her voice a syrupy sweetness no one was buying. "What? An unexpected pleasure. What brings you to my humble salon?" Mayor Collins didn't waste time on small talk. His voice was firm, echoing in the suddenly tense room. "I'm here because I heard you fired one of the finest citizens of this town," he said, his gaze shifting directly to Hailey. "And I'd like to hear her side of the story." Ms. Roberts shot Hailey a sharp look, subtle but clear, a warning to stay quiet. Hailey's stomach twisted. For a heartbeat, she thought about staying silent. It would be easier, safer. But then, she remembered Mark's face, the gratitude in his smile, the pride in his stance. She couldn't betray that. Hailey stepped forward, her voice steady. "Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's true. I gave a free haircut to Mark Thompson this afternoon. He didn't ask for it. I offered. I just wanted to do something kind." The mayor nodded, slowly, as if weighing every word. "And Ms. Roberts fired you for it?" "Yes, sir," Hailey said, lifting her chin. "She said there's no room for charity here." A murmur rose from the crowd outside, growing louder, angrier. Ms. Roberts's face flushed red with embarrassment. Mayor Collins turned back to Hailey, his expression softening. "Hailey Bennett," he said, "on behalf of this town, I want to thank you. In a world that often forgets kindness, you reminded us all what it means to be human." He reached into his coat and pulled out a white envelope and a framed certificate. "This," he said, handing the certificate to Hailey, "is a certificate of recognition for your outstanding compassion. And this," he added, passing her the envelope, "is a small gift, a $10,000 grant to help you keep spreading that kindness wherever life takes you." The room erupted in applause. Tears welled up in Hailey's eyes as she clutched the certificate to her chest. For the first time that day, the lump of fear and sadness she'd been carrying lifted away. Ms. Roberts tried to salvage the moment, stammering something about misunderstanding, but no one was listening anymore. Their loyalty had shifted. Their hearts had spoken. And as Hailey stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun, surrounded by friends, neighbors, and strangers cheering her name, she realized something powerful. She hadn't lost everything that day. She had gained far more than she ever thought possible. The days that followed felt like a dream for Hailey. Word of her firing, and the mayor's dramatic stand in her defense, spread far beyond the little town's borders. Local newspapers picked up the story. Even a regional TV station ran a segment about the hairstylist with a heart of gold. Strangers stopped her in the grocery store just to shake her hand. Old customers from the Salon, some of whom she barely remembered by name, showed up offering hugs, donations, and promises to support whatever she did next. And Hailey, standing at the center of it all, realized it was time to turn heartbreak into something greater. Using the $10,000 grant from Mayor Collins, along with donations that poured in from town fundraisers, Hailey found a small vacant building on Main Street, about 2,500 square feet. It wasn't fancy. The floors needed work and the walls were still painted an awful mustard yellow. But when she walked through the empty space for the first time, she saw it not for what it was, but for what it could become. A few months later, Bennett's Beauty and Care opened its doors. It wasn't just a salon, it was a movement. Hailey made sure to offer a kindness cut once a week, free for veterans, seniors, and anyone struggling to make ends meet. She didn't advertise it. She didn't make a show of it. It was just something people knew. If you needed help, Hailey's doors were open. The town responded with overwhelming loyalty. Within weeks, customers who used to frequent Ms. Roberts' salon shifted their appointments to Hailey's new place. Mothers brought their children. Veterans sent their friends. Even tourists passing through heard whispers about the girl who had risked everything for a simple act of kindness. Meanwhile, Ms. Roberts watched helplessly as her own business crumbled. Empty chairs, silent phones. A for sale sign appeared in her window by the end of the year. No one cheered when her salon closed, but no one mourned it either. The town had made its choice. Hailey's success didn't stop there. Less than a year, after her grand opening, she announced a second location across town, closer to the highway. The new salon doubled her reach and allowed her to hire 3 new stylists, each one chosen not just for their skills, but for their heart. On the 1-year anniversary of Bennett's Beauty and Care, the mayor returned, this time with a proclamation. April 12th would officially be recognized as Kindness Day in their town, inspired by Hailey's bravery and compassion. As Hailey stood beneath a string of fairy lights outside her salon, surrounded by laughter, music, and the faces of people she loved, she realized something powerful. It was never about losing a job. It was about finding her true calling and helping others find their way back to kindness, too. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us today. Hailey's story reminds us all that a single act of kindness can create a ripple that changes lives, including our own. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Has there ever been a moment when someone's simple kindness made a big difference in your life? Or maybe you had the chance to stand up for what's right, even when it wasn't easy. No matter how big or small, your story matters, and we believe it can inspire someone else watching right now. Also, let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. It's always heartwarming to see how kindness connects people across cities, countries, and oceans. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got even more powerful stories coming your way, because kindness deserves to be celebrated every single day. Thank you for being part of this community. We can't wait to read your comments below.